On May the 23rd of 2011, my 911 call for help caused my daughter's death. My name is Sandy Burris, and her name was Stacy. Now I'm expected to go on living with the consequences of that failed decision, keep quiet, and go on as nothing had ever happened. In spite of the way the ones responsible for taking our daughter's life portrayed her in the newspapers as the aggressor and not the victim, while trying to cover up what really happened in our home that evening. Who would have believed that that call would result in the death of our daughter from 14 bullet wounds and being tasered twice? We have kept quiet all this time due to being in real shock, devastated, and trying to convince ourselves the impossible was really true, plus the ill-given advice of attorneys. I'm sorry to have to read this in statement form, but it's the only way I can hold it together long enough to say what needs to be said. With God's grace, and if it's His will, I pray this may help make a change and help protect those in the future who may need to make that call. Now I pray it's not too late and you will listen to the truth, especially those of you out there who have loved ones with mental health issues and may need to make that call one day. Our daughter Stacy had lived with us for the past 10 years due to having her heart broken by the love of her life and a few others, and just never being able to recover from it. She withdrew from living and tried to sleep the rest of her life away. Over that period of time, she had been in and out of the hospital when her depression would overcome her. Having been diabetic for several years, she developed other serious health-related issues to that disease. The doctors had her on 9 different medications plus insulin. At the time she was killed, she had been very upset over the newly prescribed insulin not working, and 2 days before getting the report back that she had another ruptured disc in her back. Stacy was just 46 years old, 5'4", and weighed 250 pounds, and had a heart as big as Texas and a laugh to go with it when she was at herself. She left behind 2 daughters, Leslie and Lindsay, who she loved deeply and unconditionally. She would always go out of her way to help anyone who needed her in spite of her own condition and situation. As all of us know who really knew her, she wasn't capable in any state of hurting another human being. As of late, she had become very childlike, content the few hours she would stay up, feeding the birds, squirrels, and feeding her fish, or going through her rock collection. On that evening, when her youngest daughter told me she had added a large amount of alcohol on top of all her meds, plus her insulin shot to try to ease her mental and physical pain once again, I knew she could be in danger of a diabetic coma. When I got to her bedroom, I saw the effects had already started, and she was stumbling and talking incoherently. I told her at that point we would have to go to the hospital, which she replied, "No way." After trying to reason with her for a few minutes, I became ill and had to leave it to her dad, daughter, and best friend who had arrived to try to help. Shortly after, when I realized they were getting nowhere, I saw her color begin to change, and I made the worst decision of my life. How could I, in my worst nightmare, ever conceive that they would send a young rookie officer just back from the battlefields of the Middle East to assist? Instead of using one of the many options available to him, especially seeing Stacy's state of mind and physical condition, he could have even said, "Stacy, let's go have a cup of coffee," and she probably would have laughed and said, "Okay, if you can hold me up." She had been lonely for so long. But instead, when she stumbled up from her bed with a pair of scissors to her throat, he chose to put 14 bullet wounds in our daughter. after which he told the second officer, who arrived at the critical moment and yelled, "Taser, taser," and did so twice. He banged his gun down on our bathroom vanity and said, "Oh man, I effed up. Be sure and say we fired at the same time." Thus the impossible, inconceivable nightmare began. Ever since, we waited to wake up because this couldn't really happen. After holding on to hope that the second officer would tell the grand jury what really happened and the overwhelming evidence they were supposed to have, and all our testimony, including the eyewitness who saw and heard every second, and me pleading, "Please don't let this happen to anyone else," they didn't indict on any charge. Even though we were warned by several people how the outcome would be, we were all devastated again. That was as unbelievable to all of us as what had already happened. The finding of the grand jury was clearly as much of an injustice as the death of our daughter. After the education due to this year, I believe with all my heart now, silence has allowed these kind of atrocities to continue every day. When will we stand together and out loud demand better training and better screening of new officers being hired who may have serious problems they choose to ignore, such as post-traumatic stress? As a further assault on civilians versus law enforcement, laws are being passed every day, such as the Stand Your Ground law, which enables the ones we pay to call for help to get away with whatever they deem necessary, right or wrong at their discretion. Silence has allowed our people in power to progress to this level of sheer, disgraceful, depraved, and corrupt level of enforcement. If I were 20 years younger and in better health, I would take on this fight alone. But I'm ending this statement of facts by saying our daughter's unnecessary, inconceivable death will not be forgotten. And for Stacy's sake, I will never be silent again. Thank you to all that listen, and beware of 911. And to the officers involved, I have to add, I pray each time you look in the mirror, you see our daughter's face and hear her say, "I really didn't want to die. I was just crying out for help one more time." Thank you.